Today, we kick off a series of patch FAQs with how to patch Windows Server 2012 when it's beyond support. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McClone. And it's been a while since we've gotten to do a regular episode, kind of regular, so to speak, right? We've got all that fresh Converge content out there. I hope you've gotten to check that out, right? The CTF, the certifications, the pit crew, partners, the labs. Had a lot of fun and getting to meet a lot of you in person at Converge. And now we're back to those demos that Tanium admins need for success here on the Tech Talk show. And today is the first in a series of patch frequently asked questions, FAQs. And we're covering some of the most popular questions that our patch SMEs get asked on a regular basis because you know what? The patch content that we've posted on the show has really risen to the top of the charts, so to speak. Speaking of the top of the charts, for this first FAQ, we're going back in time, all the way back to Windows Server 2012. Way back when Kelly Clarkston's hit Stronger was topping the charts. Remember that? What doesn't kill you makes you strong. Anyway, but still, I don't think we can say Windows Server 2012 is stronger necessarily. So here to talk about how to patch this aging operating system is Jason Wasser. Now, you may remember him from our top Tech Talk episode of 2023, where he talked about zero touch patching. So, welcome back to the show, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen your other episodes, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Jason Wasser. I'm a technical account manager with Tanium. I've been here about 6 years. My background is in operations. So before Tanium, I was a server engineer, a desktop engineer. I did Active Directory, group policy, SCCM, a whole lot of PowerShell. And of course, in operations, patching is one of those things you just got to get good at. And so with Tanium, I'm a subject matter expert for Tanium Patch, for deploy, and for provision. And I help our customers be successful in those areas.
Well, that's for sure, because I tell you that patch episode we did on zero touch patching very quickly rose to the top of the charts for the Tanium Tech Talks anyway in 2023. So here we're going to talk about patching Windows Server 2012. So tell me, first off, Jason, what is beyond support? Is it 2012? Is it 2012 R2? Is it both of them?
Yeah, it is both of them. Ironically, they were released a year apart, but they both ended on October 10th, 2023. So the last free patch for Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2 has already been done. And so customers need to know what they can do next with those servers.
So that kind of begs the question then, how do you patch an unsupported operating system?
Microsoft knows that customers can't always just decommission old servers, right? Sometimes they're running apps that they're still relying upon. But you do have options, right? So some of the options, if you still have 2012 servers, is you can ignore it and hope it goes away. And I've worked at places like that. Not always the best solution, but it does happen. You can upgrade the operating system, right? So you can do an in-place upgrade from 2012 to 2019. You can replace the server, so maybe deploy a new VM, move the workload over. All these it's got to take planning and time and testing. And so the last option is what we're going to be covering today, right? You can purchase the privilege to continue patching those 2012 endpoints. So
So before we talk about buying more badging rights, I think there's a good option here when you talked about moving the workloads. I mean, kind of that visibility is what Tanium does, right? So we can use Tanium to identify where are the 2012 servers and what's running on them. That's kind of our core use case. Well, it depends on what's running on that server, how urgent the workload is, right? But I've
right.
even talked to some customers who are using like the performance module to find, well, all right, wait a minute, I've got all these servers that are running at like 5% utilization. Like we just turn these things off probably.
Yeah, sometimes you turn it off and see who screams, but that's not always the best option either. But yeah, definitely use the ability of the Tanium platform to inventory, to assess, to help plan. I'll even show a chart where you can track your 2012 endpoints. So you can see how many do you have and what is that progress over time as you're starting to maybe decommission them or but in this case, we're going to be focusing on, okay, if we want to keep patching them, let's make sure that they're all licensed or have the ability to continue to be patched until they can be decommissioned.
I would like to think most people are aware that you can purchase extended support. Could you just recap that quickly for folks who may not be aware of what that means?
Sure. So Microsoft has actually done this before, right? Sometimes we get so attached to our operating systems that we don't want to let them go. And sometimes we just can't, like we talked about. And so they created the Extended Security Updates program, which is basically you can purchase licenses and the ability to continue to receive security patches. And it's a program you got to enroll in. You've got to purchase licenses per operating system. And now there's actually we actually have three options. So in the past, our only option was to purchase multiple access keys or MAC keys. And then those MAC keys could then be installed on the endpoints and then activated. And they were bought in year increments. So you could buy year one, buy year two, buy year three. And so Windows Server 2012 R2 and both 2012 and 2012 R2 have 3 years. The thing is, though, if you buy it, you have to buy for the whole year. And if you decide later, I do want to have year two or year three, you still have to go back and buy year one and year two to have year three work. And each year the price goes up on purpose, right? That program has been used before, like we said, with Windows 7, Windows 2008 R2, but Microsoft has made two other options available. And the second one is just move the VM to Azure, right? If it's running in Azure, it will automatically scan and detect and install security and extended security updates until the time runs out. So you got 3 years for that.
Really? That's
Yeah.
that's new because I've heard of the other option, right? Just the longer you go, the more expensive it gets. But this is new, so you can move servers to Azure, so you can just migrate the VM. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's no work to be done. Whereas the Mac key, we'll be walking through what that process is, but there you do have to purchase the key, you have to install the key, you have to activate the license. There's some work to that. The other option that is brand new is using Azure Arc to enable ESU licensing. So Azure Arc is a Microsoft management agent that you can use to manage any of your servers wherever they are, any cloud, any data center, any closet, wherever it is. And what you can do there is then per endpoint enable ESU licensing and you pay as you go and this is all done through the Azure portal. So if you don't have the Azure Arc client there, of course you can use Tanium to push the Azure Arc client there, and then use your Azure portal to enable it. And why this is actually a great option is that you're paying per month per endpoint. So instead of having to pay an entire year for your entire estate, you can just enable it as you need it. So if you're going to plan to remove that VM or upgrade it or decommission in 3 months, you just pay for 3 months. So that's probably the best option, but you do have to have the Azure Arc agent there. And of course, there's probably some fees for that as well.
So Azure's Arc sounds kind of like Noah's Ark. You know, we got two of everything in there. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. You can just throw that agent on there. And so then the whole premise of Azure Arc, no pun intended, is your on-premises endpoints then can be managed with familiar Azure management tools, right?
That's correct. And that
Okay.
could be, yeah, on premises. It could be in AWS or other clouds as well. So it's a
Oh, okay.
one place to manage all your endpoints. Sounds kind of familiar.
All right. So where does Tanium come into the picture then?
What we can do is help provide not only the visibility, but some of that control in the ESU. So the key thing to remember, whatever path you choose, the Mac key, moving to Azure, Azure Arc, and uh, any of those ways, once you have the machine enabled, you can continue to patch the machine with Tanium Patch or your other tools, whatever you're using. And what we can do is help you provide that visibility. Where are those endpoints? Are they licensed? Whether they're in Azure, they're Azure Arc ESU, or they have the Mac key installed. And we can help you get that Mac key pushed out to those machines because visiting each machine to install a license and activate it, that's no fun. So we built some content in Tanium that we'll be walking through to show you what that looks like.
Speaking of which, now that we're talking about all these different options, when we inventory these servers, do we have a way to tell? Does it have an ESU license or is it managed in Arc? Those types of things.
Yeah, we have different sensors for all those things. We have one for ESU status. There's Azure Arc sensors that are available. And of course, there's VM type sensors that tell you if the machine's in Azure. And so all this can be you could build out a nice report that describes the different types of endpoints that you have. And what we have here is the Tanium Resource Center. So this is a brand new documentation website, brings all our docs together. But everything we're covering in this video, all the details are available here. And what you can do is just go to help.tanium.com and then just type in ESU. And what you'll see here is a knowledge base article called Enabling and Delivering Microsoft Extended Security Updates with Tanium. And this walks through all the content and discussion that we talked about. So for installing Mac keys, which is what we're going to talk through now, there are some prerequisites for the operating system. For 2012 and 2012 R2, you need to have certain latest servicing stack updates and maybe a preparation patch as well installed. And you can, of course, use Tanium to install those prerequisite patches. But the article walks through creating a custom sensor that's written in PowerShell that will provide us with the ESU license status details. It also walks through the package that you can create to activate those licenses using MAK keys. So if you do have some machines that are going to use the MAC keys, you can use this content to activate it. Here we go. The Windows ESU license status. This is the sensor. So you can create this yourself in your environment from that knowledge base article, and then just ask the question, get the Windows ESU license status from all machines. And we can see here, I've got some machines that are unlicensed, licensed, some that are not applicable, right? And so what I can do then is I can find my unlicensed machines. I can deploy an action, and then I can find the activation package. So it's called Activate Microsoft Product Key. So in here, you put your MAK key, your MAC key that you purchased from Microsoft. The license ID is found in the community article or the knowledge base article. You can paste that in here. And then you can choose if you want to activate it online. So the servers need to be able to contact Microsoft activation servers on the internet. If they do not have internet access, that's okay. You can use the Microsoft VAMT tool, VAMT, to activate those servers that don't have that internet access. So that's the process, how you would activate those servers, install the license. And once that's done, they'll automatically detect November patches, December patches, and going forward. One of the things, though, that's helpful to know is how are we doing as far as licensing all of our servers? Since that sensor will tell us whether it's licensed for Azure Arc or Azure VM or the Mac key, we want to know how are we doing for each year of licensing. And so year one starts now for Windows Server 2012 R2. This dashboard also shows legacy operating systems that maybe you still have around. But in this case, we're focusing on the 2012 and 2012 R2. So I can see I have one machine licensed and a couple that are not. We also talked about, the just track your 2012 endpoints across your environment. So this dashboard I made, and we can make that available to you as well. This is just showing how many 2012 endpoints do we have? Is our progress going in the right direction as far as getting less of them? And obviously not, right? I have actually increased my number of 2012 R2 servers, so I'm going in the wrong direction. But I work with customers who've used this dashboard and they can see the progress they're making when they're upgrading servers or decommissioning them and replacing them. And that's really helpful.
So, Jason, you mentioned working with other customers that have 2012. I imagine there's a lot of those people out there. What have you seen so far just in using these tools? What's been their experience?
Well, it's been really helpful because a lot of times we get caught off guard, right? Because I know, like you said, this video is going to be in demand because we get calls from customers or support tickets and like, hey, I'm not seeing any patches on my 2012 boxes. Well, we can provide that visibility and tell you why. So we have this article for you all. Definitely recommend you taking a look. It's kind of long, but that's just because it's describing all the little details that you might need to know. It can be a complicated topic, but it's definitely you can grasp it.
I'm just seeing this all for the first time, and wow, this is so nice. The ability to tweak the license on a server like that with a Tanium package. I'm just thinking it really feels like a full service here. We can inventory it by year one, two, three. We can see where the licensing stands. This is super helpful.
Yeah, well, it's 2012 R2. It's oldie but a goodie. It's not dead yet. You can still keep patching your legacy servers through Tanium. So happy patching, everyone.
Well, Jason, thanks for this walkthrough on the Windows Server 2012 patching status here. And as we're wrapping down, we're recording this here at the end of 2023. And certainly, this is a hot topic, top of mind, unfortunately, for a lot of shops. We would like to think that all of our stuff is up to date, but we know there's always those lagging servers out there. So now we've got a great way with Tanium to find them and fix them. Find and fix it fast. That's what we do here at Tanium. And as Jason said, there's that community article on Tanium Resource Center, and that's linked in the show notes below to give you a quick way to get there. So, folks, that wraps it up for this first installment of our Patch FAQ series. And stay tuned and check back here on the Tanium YouTube channel on the Tech Talks playlist because we've got more Patch FAQs coming your way. And until then, go Tanium.